Jay, Nope. I saw Nope.
No, oh my God, you saw Jordan Peele's Nope?
I saw
the
Nope.
newest film live, the newest film on screen in the big picture from the director of Get Out and that Mad TV sketch.
Yeah, I saw Nope. I saw IMAX. Big. It's such a big.
You saw it on the big screen. Oh,
spectacle.
that's so good.
Spectacle.
He hired Christopher Nolan's big camera guy, camera special
big.
boy, to make the movie real big. Aliens.
Ooh.
Oh, CGI. Good movie.
It's such a spectacle. The
Marvel.
the Bible.
Who?
The Bible. Nahum 3:6. The Bible filth spectacle.
There's the Bible, the Nope stands for not of planet Earth.
Ooh,
no, makes you think. Did you notice? Oh my God, did you notice the camera look like alien camera?
They
look the same.
Eyes looking. Ooh,
the cycles of trauma.
Shoe.
Shoe! Why was shoe up? Shoe! Why was shoe up? Thank you for indulging me in a little bit of scream therapy.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got that out of our system.
It seems to really help people, relate to and understand a complicated work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I guess it sort of brings us to, like, if we can spend the session sort of talking about it, I was screaming in the local theater for Jordan Peele's Nope in theaters now. In theaters now, maybe?
Hey, there's no way they're not gonna have it still be in theater. Are you kidding? This is like one of the few films that they're gonna show for longer than one weekend, and then it disappears or is sent to a theater in a town called like Swamp Bucket. That is 78 miles away from you.
Yeah, and that'll be the last place you get to see it before it, right to Blu-ray.
Straight to Blu-ray.
Straight to Blu-ray after an extremely successful theatrical run.
Yeah. Straight to Paramount Plus.
Oh yeah.
And then like 18 months later it shows up on like Tubi. and somehow shows up on like one of the library streaming services, like before it's even out of theaters. They are on top of that shit. Hey, if you're listening to this and you still haven't seen World Going to the World's Fair, they just added it to Hoopla, which is a library streaming service that you, especially if you're based in the United States, can probably sign up for free through your local library.
Shout out to Hoopla, shout out to Canopy. We will always be doing free advertisement for them because, hey, just get a fucking library card, you goofus.
Library card. Canopy, Hoopla, and then our other favorite ones, Mubi, and Tubi.
Mubi and Tubi, the brothers.
The dynamic duo.
The dynamic duo. Nope. Nope is doing shockingly well in its theater run for an original idea. Oh my God, sorry. It's original films. It's just.
I know. I kept trying to figure out how they were going to tie it into Euphoria, and they just didn't. It was so weird.
Didn't.
There was no cameo. Like, they didn't have a single deep fake Stan Lee walk in and point and go, "That's the alien.
That's the guy." We'll start with the big picture, and then we'll go
into the nitty gritty.
We'll go into the nitty gritty. We'll explain everything for you plebeian prole pieces of shit out there.
Yeah, all you Redditors, log on to our podcast Patreon and support us, and then listen to this episode where we'll tell you what this movie was actually all about.
Which is notoriously what our podcast is for.
Notoriously our podcast is all about really taking a movie and simmering it down to just the most basic element of what it is. And then assigning it a number and a funny reaction gif.
Oh, make your face for the video through a screenshot. Oh, I liked this movie a lot.
No, I really liked it. I will say now, cutting this off at the pass. I don't get the impulse everyone is having to compare it to Us and rank the Jordan Peeleverse films, because I feel like I say this as somebody who, like, I guess objectively liked Us more. I feel like Us and Nope are such strikingly different films. Same director, his fingerprints are all over both movies, but they are like deeply different films.
Yes, and that, yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that's so part and parcel to like how a lot of people are how a lot of people are trying to kind of calibrate their reactions. And yeah, Nope. I think I like better. I think it's his best movie, just in terms of like, this is the type of things that this is the type of stuff that I like when I come to films. It's a bit sparser by the standards of what we would call, Hollywood features, right? It's slower, and it's we see a lot of like Daniel Kaluuya's reactions to stuff. But I thought that like what it did in service of atmosphere was really strong and worked really well for me. While still retaining that, like, the Peelisms, the I wouldn't call it like a watertight script, but a really, really tight, punchy, smart script that's like, he's very into the Chekhov's gun, and there's like 20 million Chekhov's guns in this film still.
Yes, I was gonna say he is all about the planting. He's all about the rhyming and doubling of images, where there's not necessarily a like. I feel like a lot of people hit the mistake of trying to directly give meaning to like a thing appearing and then necessarily reappearing later. Yeah. But I think a lot of that is just a really smart impulse he has to kind of make his films feel more cohesive and more self-contained.
Yes.
Which isn't to say that you can't extrapolate meaning from them, but I feel like a lot of people are trying to figure out, like, solve it as a puzzle and not just accept that, like, this is kind of a recurring trademark of his, is he likes to introduce images and ideas, props, lines, concepts early in the film that then reappear and are reintegrated or show up in an unexpected way later in the film.
And that's something, it's really interesting that you bring that up, the sort of puzzle film aspect. I mean, we had, Get Out was less of a puzzle than Us, I would say, but Get Out still had that aspect that was like, okay, there's a conversation that grows out of Get Out, and, there's a larger conversation that grows out of Us that's not only about the meat of the film and, like, what it's talking about, but is about, like, did you see this? Did you see that? What do you think that meant? What do you think that meant? And that stuff is, I think that is really valuable in and of itself. And honestly, like, it's Jordan Peele's movies that, like, are part of what helped us, like, start this podcast, kind of, because, like, Get Out was definitely one of those movies where it was just, like, all of our friends, like, outside the theater being like, oh my god, that was crazy, blah, 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 did you see that? Did you see that?
Yeah, no, I remember that. And then Us was one of the first ones that, like, we liked so much we did 2 episodes on it.
Yeah. Which is, yeah, absolutely. Which is unprecedented in modern film critters times, but it was, his films are obviously very, very buzzy and very talked about, and I want to give this film an enormous compliment to say that it is cribbing a lot from one of my favorite movies of all time, The Host by Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah!
It's definitely, like, as much as it's clearly inspired by, King Kong, Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg, blah, 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 I felt the influence of The Host in thematic content and in the way, the, like, relationship between the animal and the humans and kind of how that dichotomy is prodded. But similar to The Host, I think, like, this movie and The Host suffer from the same problem where it's just like, how do you market that?
Because I will say I think they did a pretty good job marketing it, except this second half of the marketing, where the correct impulse to go to was to kind of leave it very like, ooh, what's going on? What's all these things in the film?
Yeah.
And then I avoided the second trailer because I had multiple friends tell me that, like, the second trailer killed a lot of their enthusiasm for the film because it apparently made it look like way more of an on the tracks film than it was, and also that it showed way too much.
Yes, I would definitely agree. Like, it's a film that's like wearing the jacket of a different film that's wearing the jacket of a different film. Like, I don't so much want to say that it's on the nose. The movie certainly isn't on the nose. It's very like dense, thematically speaking, but it's not the Where's Waldo that I think a lot of the promotion was kind of hinting toward, and kind of milking the reputation of Us a little bit. I think that like what you're going to get from this movie is like the true value of Nope, ironically, for such a buzzworthy thing and such a blockbuster, blah blah blah, like ironically you are going to have to go into your hyperbolic time chamber all by yourself and like think about what it meant to you more than what it meant to like the world, or what it was, in a cemented specific way trying to say. And the other style shout out that I do want to get out of my system that like I definitely felt was there was I felt like the innards of the alien were extremely inspired by Under the Skin. And that's not confirmed. That's just me feeling like, oh hey, that's pretty cool if that is the case.
It definitely feels like it kind of, and I don't mean this in the negative sense, but lifts that sort of concept of this alien being that eats people in a way that isn't necessarily clearly delineated or explained to the audience, but is definitely horrifying.
Yes. Oh my god, yeah, that shit was actually very, very scary.
the way it like slowly lets you draw the connection that the noises it's making are the sounds of the things that are trapped inside of it, which means that they are slowly being eaten.
Yeah.
Very good.
And like I understand. I mean, like people's reactions to this are kind of a little bit all over the place. I would say mostly positive. So I don't want to overstate. Like I'm not saying that there's a Peele backlash. Jordan Peele's canceled. He's not actually like. It's not necessarily that that's the case, but I think a lot of people are scratching their heads over it. But I think that if we're talking about the craft here, the way that it gives information, and specifically gives the information about the alien kind of in a drip feed way throughout the movie, was really good.
Yeah, no, I think he maybe a little bit to his detriment kind of learned from Us that like, okay, if you don't give your audience like really any information, they get a little too mad. And I think this felt like a lot him trying to strike that balance of like, okay, what's like enough lore and information that people can kind of like chew on it and write their little film essays, but like not enough so that like the film becomes like the actual classic alien invasion film where there's just endless scenes of characters standing around talking and telling you what's going on.
Yeah.
Or telling you the biology or telling you the facts about this creature, because kind of the point is that like that's not the point. Like the creatures, how the creature works doesn't really matter so much as like the weird heuristics they develop to try to understand and explain the creature, which fits really well with the recurring theme of animal training and like how we just kind of assign meaning to animals' behaviors that are maybe not actually informed by anything.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot to be said about I mean, like, it's definitely a movie that's like, it's to a certain extent about animal rights, and it's about like unseen aspects of filmmaking and spectacle in general. But I mean, it's kind of unlike his prior movies, which both feel sort of specific. It's unfoldable, and it's like this it's this vague fable about the illusion of control, and how, I don't know, like people think that like by viewing or by looking at something that they have control over it when they really don't at all.
So we'd probably have to bring it in eventually, but I'm bringing it because it's contextually relevant.
Yeah.
The Adam Ellis tweets.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So I bring it up because the whole thing he has where he's like, listen, man, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but I will not stand for John Carpenter slander. gets at part of the thing I also really enjoy about Jordan Peele's films is that he's very clearly like not just like a sincere fan of the kind of horror film like history that he's drawing on,
Right.
but like very clearly sees himself in conversation with it, which is like the kind of egotistical move a director can pull off, where it's like if you can pull it off, it's good, and if you don't, it sucks. So like, yeah, I will stand up and applaud when he puts his name over the footage of the jockey on the horse running, just like, yeah, that's right, motherfucker, I'm in conversation with the entire history of film, fuck you. And he's right, he is.
Yeah.
Extremely bold move that I think pays off. But in that way, a thing that I think he really gets about horror and how much he loves it is that like horror doesn't need to be about something to still be about something, if that makes sense. Because a lot of the horror film directors that he obviously takes a lot of influence from, stuff like Chud, the sort of 80s like new headline stuff, Wes Craven and John Carpenter are pretty obvious like influence points on him. Very much so kind of start with these ideas of like folding these things in, but rather than doing the thing that a lot of modern film has the issue with, which is making the film solely operate on the logic of a metaphor, also folds in a good heaping of, wouldn't it be fucked up if this happened? So it's like he draws like, and that's, I think that works because it ends up giving the films a lot denser things to work on, because there's not just a one-to-one metaphor. It's a miasma of like thoughts and reactions to things that the filmmaker is seeing and thinking about and drawing on, and a mixture of like, well, they're getting at like primal or cultural human fears, and so from that you can build off so many things because human fears are socially constructed, so there's a lot of ideas to that, and it makes his films like, that was like a big thing, like why I loved Us as like such a fucking glow up step up to Get Out, which was already really good.
Yeah.
Is that it was him kind of like all right, like Get Out was my like that was my training level. Now it's time for me to like go full Super Saiyan, and then this is like him going even further, where it's like him doing the same sort of thing with Us, but throwing in like a lot more difficult filmmaking stuff. Like Us works because it's very on the ground and human, and so this is a film where it's like you have to know how to film something that is a lot more big.
Yes.
So it feels a lot, he's getting a lot bolder with his style with this one, and that's why, like, even though I would objectively say I liked Us more, I'm still really hyped about this because it's such a clear step in his evolution as a director to be like, okay, I feel confident in my ability to make films in this sort of style that I want to make them. I want to try to push myself to do something that's like even further different direction than I've been able to make so far. I want to go from making movies that are about people to movies that are about fucked up aliens and animals. And also people, but
yeah. And I mean he has a hard job. He has to kind of conceptualize and shoot the sky in a way that makes it feel really, really mysterious and kind of scares people, you know, in the same way that Jaws scared people, right?
yeah, oh, and he just, oh, it's such a good job. He really captures both like the beauty of like big open areas and also the awareness of the high visibility of them, and also if something started coming towards you from the other side of them, where are you gonna go?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's gonna see wherever you go.
Yeah. That's this movie was actually very nerve-wracking, which is like
That's so rare. That's like so, and I love horror films. That's still so rare for like most horror films. But there were definitely moments where I was fucking stressed out watching this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the way it consistently drives up the pressure of just like, okay, not only is this thing able to just silently zip wherever it wants to go, it is also going to digest you slowly and crush you alive, and it's the scariest thing you've ever seen that could ever happen to anyone. And yeah, you're basically fucked.
Yeah. And I want to return to it. And also, the military probably not coming to help you.
Almost definitely, assuredly not.
I bring that up now because I do want to bring to it. I do love the continuing, slowly growing theme in his words. So clear that Jordan Peele loves reading conspiracy stuff because all of his films have had like very obvious draws from like deep conspiracy like literature.
So what would you say is the case for this movie?
Oh, so obviously there's, like there's the whole scene with oh god, what's the character's name? The Fry's Electronics guy.
Angel.
Angel, yes. The whole scene of Angel where he's explaining like, oh, they call them UAPs, and he's like connecting it to like modern alien, for lack of a way to put it, discourse and like arguments that they have amongst like modern like UFO like paranormal research community. But there's a lot of like really small, subtle things that are kind of sewn throughout it.
Right.
Early on, there's the radio broadcast about the missing hitchhikers.
Ooh.
And the missing campers, which is right before the storm of like keys and like coins and stuff that people who were hitchhiking and camping probably would have had on them, but which couldn't be digested.
Yes.
And within like a lot of conspiracy paranormal stuff, there's the whole missing hiker thing. That was it. It was hikers, is what they said. Like that were missing. And this sort of theme of like, oh, people keep going missing in these really specific areas, and the government doesn't seem too concerned about it. There's the sort of implicit implication. There's like a couple other lines here and there which imply that like people probably know about this thing and are like observing / researching it.
Right.
There's the kind of vague feeling of a cover up. There was like the flash flood thing. Like that whole thing is very clearly like, okay, they know a flash flood didn't happen because you see the place where they all disappeared and there was not a flash flood that happened there. It's very clear that like there's some degree of like implicit covering up going on. There's the, oh yeah, a plane flew overhead and a bunch of stuff fell out of it, which is like delivered to OJ's character as if it's a confirmed fact, but like it isn't. We know that it's not a plane that did it, and it doesn't come off like they're like, oh, we think this happened. It's like, oh no, don't worry about it. This is what happened.
Right.
So there's like a bunch of stuff in it that kind of implies a grander conspiracy, which definitely relates to like a lot of like UFO conspiracy theory stuff. Obviously in Us, there's the underground tunnels and the concept of like brainwashing and controlling the masses. Get Out has like a whole, the theme of like a literal conspiracy of rich white elites kidnapping and torturing minority people for their own benefit, and especially to help them live forever. None of this is to necessarily say that I think Jordan Peele is like a conspiracist. Like, I don't think this is him like, he's like planting all the clues for the audience to get it. I just think that he very clearly sees that stuff is like fertile ground for horror narratives.
With regard to the like conspiracy angle, I think that like he kind of designs his movies with a certain level of appeal to people who are like into conspiracies, as in a way that he probably is. And which kind of brings me to like an interpretation that I have about this film, which is that like, yeah, when we think about UFOs or UAPs, whichever term you want to go with, there is an indication or an implication, I should say, that like it's little green men. It's like a society. They're from another planet and they're coming here with a very specific intent. And I think that like especially with the positioning of Angel's character, or Brandon Pereira's character Angel, he's saying something, or at least I kind of read between the lines here, maybe a little bit too much, and feel like he's saying something about the conspiracy, or the concept of conspiracy in and of itself, where there's a lot of like, conspiracy leads down the road of you're just talking about the conspiracy and you're not talking about the problem that the conspiracy is related to. And for a lot of things, it's kind of less that there's necessarily a conspiracy or that things are more complicated than they are, but like that, like, no, what you see is kind of what you get, and we are like ostensibly victims to this like mode of consumption. And I would say it's, you know, we have to bring up the C word and say capitalism here, because I think is the thing that kind of the effect that kind of sands down all of the conspiracy and all of the different intent or possible intents that like an alien can have for coming to human or for coming to Earth. Like at the end of the day, you know, if we're thinking about things and this sort of framework of colonial capitalism, then consumption is, you know, it's the name of the game, and it's all there really is, and there's no other sort of intent to prod. So he's saying, like, we know what the problem is, so maybe, you know, less of the bullshit and more of like actually kind of tackling that. I don't know if that's how you interpreted it or not.
I can definitely see, and I think part of what he does with like the use of conspiracy is that it's like, what is conspiracy ultimately but a theory of how power by unseen forces moves against you?
Yeah.
That's horror. That is horror as a genre. An unseen or previously unseen force of power moving against you. And so I think part of his fascination with it might just be like as narratives and as like way, you know, you can get more into like the nitty gritty of like ways of looking at and getting at power where you kind of return that back to the conversation. But I think the way he uses them in the film to me also just comes off as like just a very smart understanding of like conspiracies and the approaches of them get out a lot of the ideas both of horror and also the ideas of like the kind of stuff I want to talk about in my films, which is like, what better mode of operandi to like examine different types of like fucked up relationships, so especially with how they're defined by class and power and race, than the genre of horror, because that shit is fucking horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really deft, and it's a really smart way of kind of manifesting those themes. And I did want to kind of just kind of go through like a couple of quick reactions to some of the characters in the film, starting with Angel Torres. I just want to continue the theme of like objectifying at least one man in every Jordan Peele movie, and this time it's going to be Angel, because oh my god, the like frosted tips doomer boyfriend thing.
Oh, he is so hot. He is so good. The squirrely little shit.
Just like hating his job, hating his life, but then they go back to his apartment. Oh my god, it's like the best scene in the fucking movie when they're at his apartment playing VR games while he's like mining Bitcoin in the background, and like OJ is just sitting there thinking, just like thinking through the problem while they're fucking around on like roller coasters and in haunted houses in virtual reality.
The way he delivers line, that's the where he's like, all right, well, like my house is free because I'm guessing you guys don't want to go back to the murder house. Just very like, though, like it's the end of the night. Guy who's a good enough friend that he's not gonna like put you out in a shitty situation, but also is just very begrudging of the fact that he's like, listen, my house is not built for me to live in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I loved his inclusion. I loved his character was so funny. I love that they rewrote the scripts to make him more depressed.
I did not know that. That's really funny.
He was supposed to be like happy-go-lucky, and apparently, and just like, oh yeah, I'm here to help you guys set up your stuff. Yeah.
I am so glad he did not go in that direction, because that would have made the film a little too Spielberg in the annoying way.
For real. And I mean, it makes him work so much better with the film, because it's like, you know, this is something that I'm going to touch on in a second, but like, capitalist alienation. We like
Yeah,
he
no, it works so much better that all the characters are to some extent traumatized or disillusioned or depressed.
yeah, like he wants to do a good enough job at his real job, but there is a bigger bag to chase in this situation. And he sees that, and it's just smart. It's just yeah, a smart use of that character. Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer as this sort of like right brain left brain sibling situation. I thought they were fantastic.
It
Uh
was so weird seeing how many people like it's weird to see that things have come around in a way where it's like instead of people being like, well, that character wasn't really emotive, the actor must be bad at their job. It's come around to instead this other like reverse version where it's like, why didn't they let him act? Why did they stop Daniel from acting? And it's like I think maybe he was acting. You know he's a good actor. You've seen him in other stuff. You know he can act.
yeah, you have that object permanence.
He's acting.
He's doing acting. He's doing actor. I mean, like, he's giving, like, John Wayne in this shit. Like, he's such a natural, Western star. Even though he's fucking British, but,
I keep forgetting he's British. I don't think I've seen a movie where his British accent comes out. Let me see. Hold on. There was a Kick-Ass 2.
Ugh,
And
don't
he was
remind
in it.
me. Don't remind me. Don't get me fucking started. No, but yeah, like he was very restrained, but I really think that it like they did that very on purpose. As a sort of contrast to Keke Palmer, who is fucking electric. She is so good. And their relationship, like I think that they had improvised like a couple of different versions of that really pivotal monologue that Keke Palmer has. But yeah, I felt it. I think it was a success. I think they really stuck the landing, not only in terms of just like acting their asses off as like being siblings, but just like everything that's kind of simmering underneath and how they like see each other, but they're like made to be in competition with each other, and one of them's heart is in the ranch and one of them is like not, and all of this stuff. Yeah, it made me really want to watch this movie with my own siblings.
Aw. No, they did a really good job with the characters. I will say I do agree with criticism that a friend of the pod had, which is that Keke Palmer, great, kills it. But he was very much like, when are they just gonna like sometimes you see a role and you're just like, this was written for like a fat butch. And I do have to agree. Having seen that tweet and then seeing the movie, I'm like, I do gotta agree. I could definitely see the ways this character was supposed to be a chubbier butch, but I still think Keke Palmer nails it. I think she does a great job.
It's super funny you say that. Like, there's like a scene that like you get like 2 seconds of it in the international trailer, but I think she was supposed to be a lesbian in this film, and I'm so angry that she's not.
She is.
Yeah,
it is, and it is still in the film.
Oh, it is.
So there's two specific lines that make it more explicit. But obviously you don't see any characters with really any romantic interactions, so you wouldn't. It's not like it has to come up, for lack of a way to put it, naturally. The two times it comes up are when they're talking right before the whole bit about the original Jean Jacket horse. She says she has like a joke about like, oh, like, so I was talking about this with my therapist, and he's like, your therapist? And she goes, yeah, I've been fucking this therapist. Which is incredible bit. Perfect Abbott and Costello routine there. But then she goes, so she was saying, and it's very natural, like that, or like not to like be like, oh, I like it when they don't shove it in your face, but I like that there's no point where she's like, yeah, I was having sex with a woman. She's just like, this person I was having sex with, because it's like, yeah, she's talking to her fucking brother she works with, like he knows she's gay. She's not gonna make a point of making it explicit,
right?
And then when they're in the Fry's and they're shopping for stuff, she makes a comment about a woman they pass having a big ass.
Damn, I should have watched the movie a second time. I forget all the gay shit. Can't believe
Yeah.
it.
No, it's like I said, it's really minor stuff. It's very like it is unfortunately has that little bit of a feeling of like these are things that can be cut for further releases.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's studio intervention or if that's just like the script he was writing, realizing that like he's writing this character as a lesbian, but there's nothing in the film that confirms it. So kind of putting in like a few one-off lines to like make it more obvious that this character is intended to be read as such.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I appreciated that there was no Pixar. Oh, there's my partner I've been talking about this whole film, and she runs over, and it's a woman.
What? Yeah, that's good. That's good, I suppose. I mean, I don't know. It's Jordan Peele just giving us the scraps.
His next film, all gay bitches. That's Jordan. You're on notice. Next film, gay bitches.
He's actually responsible for they/them. It's kind of an Alan Smithy situation.
I'm so hyped for they.
Oh, I can't wait for they/them. It's gonna be so bad.
My favorite response is people being like, can we not mind queer tragedy for slasher films? And I was like, no, can we? Can we more?
Can we start? Can we?
Yeah, can we start? There was a fucking school shooter kid in the fucking Texas Chainsaw movie. What, we can't do shit about stuff gay people deal with?
Yeah, we're already past the threshold on absolute soullessness in media.
Yeah.
Which, hey, what's what the movie we're talking about is about?
Hey, that was a great transition. That was a great... yeah, I love what this movie has to say about film and Hollywood, both as an industry and also as like a place where meaning is made and like a place where stories are told. And it's very, very smart. And it's super fucking cool to see Jordan Peele tackle these kinds of ideas about looking and watching and films and narrative, and also folding into that critiques and discussions of the Hollywood as a system and machine in his like fucking third movie.
In his like third, out the gate, he's ready. Yeah, this one definitely had like, by a crazy standard, like a much higher budget than his other stuff. And I mean, as far as kind of the critique on like Hollywood and like the gays and all of this stuff, like I really loved Michael Wincott, previously of Alien Resurrection.
Oh,
that's where I recognize those dulcet tones from.
No, you're right. Yeah, I was like, I was watching it and I was like, this guy looks so familiar.
Yeah, I noticed that by being gay. But anyway, yeah, Michael Wincott, he like we see him and like the first time that we ever see him, he's like basically looking at animal snuff films and stuff. Just this like breathless search for meaning in a vacuum of nothingness. Which also goes into fucking Jupe's character, which was like by far my favorite character of the movie.
I adored Jupe. Huge shout outs to nailing the way like celebrity tragedy is mined for comedy.
Yeah. Oh my god.
The fucking Mad Magazine cover is just like pitch perfect.
Yeah. Yeah,
and it's like I am not immune. I will admit I've laughed at a Natalie Wood joke here and there. But god damn, what just like really ruthless in just being like, hey, it's kind of fucked up how like real people going through some of the most traumatizing shit is like late night talk show fodder.
Yeah, his whole fucking SNL monologue is like so it's like so fucking funny, and you're sitting there laughing because he's just like, who was it that like played Gordy?
Chris Kattan.
Chris Kattan. He's like
because he keeps being like Chris Kattan, peak of his career, which is such a funny thing to say about Chris Kattan.
He killed it, man. He fucking killed it on that stage. Like so funny, but like just that all of that stuff with him is like such a centerpiece of the film. It's just like because he can't get too mad about it because he's also like monetizing this trauma, and he's also renting out this room of memorabilia from the worst experience of his life as an Airbnb situation.
Yeah.
So he has to sit there and be like, yeah, that SNL skit, man, that shit like was so funny. You know, they knocked it out of the park. Like
The wild thing of like him still talking about the show in like promoting it on a talk show circuit way, where it's like very clearly from everything that we're shown is just like the like stupidest like it's fucking Alf. It's fucking Alf.
Yeah.
And he's just talking about it like, yeah, no, it was like, you know, it was gonna change television and then tragedy struck, but you know, like you gotta laugh about it sometimes. And it's just like it was you a coworker of yours died and another one was permanently scarred for fucking Alf.
For Mork and Mindy, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's hideous. I mean, when you sort of peel back the layers on it, it's really hideous, and it's kind of, you know, the film is kind of nihilistic in its own way, and it plays in this land of like being kind of guilty by association, right? Because it's like this movie is also consuming the images of like, because that's real shit that happened. The Travis, you can look up Travis the chimpanzee who, you know, ate a woman's face.
I will say that is like one thing with Jordan Peele stuff so far that kind of sticks in my craw, and this is a horror film problem in general.
Yeah.
But the like, I was willing to like, I was very like, oh, like it makes sense for the character to have a raspy voice based on like a type of like tracheal injury you can get because the character has had a tracheal injury. But then to kind of use for like shock and horror value, like a woman's disfigured face modeled off of the real disfigured face of a woman whose story you're quoting for the film, that was like, that was a little weird.
It's like almost a bridge too far. It potentially is a bridge too far, but I mean, like, you know, art is dangerous.
Yeah, no, it's like ultimately, I have, you know, like it's what we live in fucking a post Once Upon a Time in Hollywood world. Like I and I've gone on here and I've defended like fucking Murder Death Koreatown. So like I'm not gonna be like this crossed the line. It is just a thing where it's like, man, like you had all that criticism after us.
Yeah.
This was a thing that you could have like pretty easily avoided.
And the fact that he's kind of, you know, stepping gingerly under the bear trap by saying like the whole Oprah shot thing, like he's so clearly referencing the Travis incident with so much of this, and it's you know, it's expounded to be like a show and like, you know, kind of this capitalistic thing, whereas in real life it was, you know, more complicated or whatever. But like, yeah, it's a little touchy.
It's a thing of like, it is, to be fair, for like way to put it, it is also definitely drawing on like, it's taking the Travis the Chimp thing and it's grafting it onto like things that do happen. Like there's, you know, there's fucking John Landis killing those two kids and what's his name? Vic Morrow. There's the Crow shooting.
Yeah.
There's
Alec Baldwin.
There's Alec Baldwin's shooting. That he did on purpose. There's
allegedly, don't sue us.
There's a film infamous called Roar that got a redistribution.
Oh my God, yeah.
That was part of, and like that I think is also partially what he's actually drawing on, because that was part of the like Jaws ripoff wave of just like movies about killer animals. Which, you know, he's definitely drawing on the sort of like creature feature film. Hold on, let me find it, because there is an actress in that film who was also mauled by a lion, and you can look at photos of her and her face is different.
Yeah.
Because she had access to probably Melanie Griffith.
Yeah.
She had like her like scalp ripped off, if I remember correctly. So like you can look at photos from like pre and post that, and like she definitely like had to have some facial reconstructive surgery. So it's like he kind of skates on it because he is drawing on like a lot of different things, But the most explicit thing he's drawing on is that people who watching this are going to immediately connect it to is the Travis the chimp thing, which does make that shot feel like a little like,
yeah.
And then she gets eaten by an alien, so it's essentially like,
Yeah, I mean, like that's pretty nihilistic. That's pretty, that's pretty whatever. I think I don't know.
I would say if I was her though, and like my last moments in that alien, I would be so fucking pissed. Like, oh great, this fucking kid was on a show with me, and I got mauled by a chimp and he didn't, and then he invites me to his little fucking stunt to help cross promote it, and I get fucking eaten by an alien. This dude's fucking bad luck.
I swear to God, like I've been sick of hearing about this show. I've been sick of thinking about it for all of these years, and this is what fucking happened. God damn it! That kid told me he had a crush on me one time, and I was like, ooh, fuck.
This has actually like happened multiple times over the years. Like every time he gets her together in some new scheme, like hot coffee gets spilled on her lap, and she has to sue McDonald's.
It's just like an ongoing Ed and Eddie thing that they have together. Yeah. They're star-crossed lovers in a very fucked up way. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, we could sit here and kind of chop it up about the finer details or whatever all day long, but I think that's maybe not what we're supposed to.
Yeah, I know. Do. Like I just felt because it's the one kind of critique of the film I haven't really saw brought up.
Oh,
and
no,
it's
yeah.
a thing where it's like I would feel remiss not mentioning it because it was one thing that stuck out to me as like, man, come on, like this came up with us already. Like,
yeah,
you know that's like a little weird to use actual people's disfigurements as like shock value.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
But whatever.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you brought it up because I was feeling that way as well.
Yeah. But other than that, like I think you're right. He is very smartly, or he is indicted a little bit in this as well, and he's kind of aware of that.
Yeah.
Which I think is like, I think good filmmakers know when to not pull the punches on themselves either, and how to avoid that from being too masturbatory. I like that he allowed himself his one boomer moment of the film with the TMZ guy.
That was really funny. And
yeah,
the minor Chekhov's gun of just like the horse being freaked out by the like sphere, and then his helmet is like one big sphere kind of eye like. So of course he's gonna get eaten by the fucking alien. Also, that character is apparently named Ryder Muybridge, who's Muybridge is the guy who got credit for the Black Horseman footage that they talk about in the film. Muybridge was basically the first guy that put together motion pictures, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, no, I saw that as well. I was like, oh, that's pretty clever.
Yeah. So he's also there to steal their thunder and to take away their legacy, essentially. And he's, and he has the same name as the guy.
I do think it's really funny how everyone just agrees that he must actually be from TMZ because of the line Keke Palmer has. But I assume that he was just like a weird like YouTuber guy. Like, and he was just like, I'm gonna go do my own exploitative investigation on this because like of the way he like immediately harasses her.
Logan Paul didn't like this movie because that's him.
Yeah, Logan Paul's massive threat, and then like the rest of the thread is just him like, and what happened to that guy? He does actually complain about the guy on the motorcycle because he's like, I thought the guy was gonna be like a badass villain, and then he's just like some guy, and it's like, yeah,
God, imagine.
Yeah, that's a huge theme of the movie.
Imagine just like not being a person who like watches or cares about fucking movies actually, but just like makes a 50 tweet fucking thread about it.
It drove me so wild just being like, people just being like, I don't get it, like why was the guy there, why was the shoe up? And it's like, did you miss like the line that was in the trailers?
Were you watching? Were you like listening and paying attention? Were you on
Did you go to the bathroom every time an unfortunate coincidence happened?
Huh. Yeah. No, yeah. Those takes about the movie I mean, like, always infuriating. Something about Twitter. Just yeah.
And
I mean,
Reddit.
and Reddit and YouTube
Facebook.
and all of these platforms that we're relying on that turn us all into mini spectacles of our own making, and until we are all consumed and our bones are spat out by the machine.
Yeah.
Well,
I liked the Gore House. I liked the part where it just gets mad at them, and so it's like, I'm gonna cover your house in blood and guts.
that was a classic. That was such a that's like the 80s like horror movie set piece moment right there.
Yeah, no, that was also the sequence that I was like, this is like actually genuinely stressful, because the film is very like, what if I just killed one of these characters right now?
Yeah, what if? I mean, like, they could, you don't know the full capacity and capability of the alien. Like, there's kind of, different parts where it's like able to like destroy things and rip the roof off of shit and all of this stuff. So yeah, that was a really, really nerve-wracking scene. What did you think of Barbie Ferreira's small cameo?
That was so good. I was that is another thing I did. I'm so sad she didn't have more than that like brief scene.
Yeah, I'm like,
I thought she was gonna like get roped into it somehow. Like she was gonna be watching the cams from like the Fry's Electronics.
her inclusion was still like funny to me. Like I just love Hot Cheetos coworker.
No, it's perfect. I've had that. Everyone has had that coworker.
Yeah.
It's such a great inclusion. It rounds out the world so much to just give him this this in her pajamas at work coworker, eating fucking hot Cheetos, and she's like, "What are you doing?"
Hey, what you doing? Yeah, could have had more of her. Although I understand she just call out. There's like some dust getting kicked up about her Tumblr history, but I don't want to. That's neither here nor there.
I can't believe one of the kids on Euphoria had a problem. This is just gonna be. This is like why Hollywood has been afraid to have big actors that are under the age of like 40.
Yeah,
is because anybody that young has a problematic Tumblr history, and none of them know how to file takedown notices to the Wayback Machine.
Oh my god, yeah. That our collective infosec is gonna run us all off the rails. But there won't be any industries anymore, and we'll all be kind of just busking, either on the internet or in wherever we are.
We'll be describing films. We'll be doing the flip book thing.
So Jordan Peele just released his script on the dark web for a movie that is never going to get funding for because all of the studios burned down. Wow, that's crazy. This script is really good. Let's talk about it on our podcast.
Another doubling thing I really liked is the chimp being set off by the balloon popping, and then the alien being defeated by a balloon pop.
Yeah, that's really good.
I big fan. Yeah, listen, I like all the doubling. I like giving the characters somewhat of a complicated history of their father without overly relying on just the dad being abusive. Like, just acknowledge that, like, you can have a really fucked up, complicated relationship to your family and parents by stuff that is almost kind of traumatizing in its own way because of the larger context of it. That, like, it may be a different context, would not have been as big a deal, but, like, that's just, like, so real that she seizes on, like, one image of, like, looking out the window, which, by the way, framed, like she's looking through a camera. At her brother training her horse.
Yeah.
And like that, she doesn't really remember much else about it other than just like that moment and him looking at her and him being like, I don't really remember that moment, but I'm glad it meant something.
Yeah. That was, I mean, like, just an unbelievably real and heartfelt and sweet and also really interesting moment because it's like so much of kind of what we think about in terms of like familial not I don't want to strictly say abuse, but like the wider umbrella of like how we treat each other in terms of like family structures. Capitalism infects that, and
Yeah.
that is like when I think about my own experiences of, what I would technically call abuse or whatever. It's like I there there is a much bigger beast at play than simply like family members or people who were in my life in the past. Like there was something like in that scene they needed to, they needed a little bit of money. They had to sell the horse to the Scorpion King.
Which is such a good gag. And then
Really.
you see him later wearing the Scorpion King crew hoodie. So
Yeah.
I want to know so much how he came to decide Scorpion King was going to be
It
the
has
pull
to
for that.
it has to just be like, a movie that was like so expensive and so produced, but like ultimately was like kind of a blip. Like where you
Yeah.
hear it and you're like, the Scorpion, that's a weird pull. Like that's super
A
fucking
movie
bizarre.
that you maybe remember seeing in theaters or on DVD, but which has no memory or meaning to you, and thus to make it really funny that it has like extreme meaning to them because the realities of working on it.
Mm-hmm.
Also
Yeah.
very funny to be honest about like the fact that like yeah, even the fucking garbage like Scorpion King means a lot to the people who worked on it because they had to work on it. Not
Yeah.
necessarily that it means a lot to them fondly, but they have a very different relationship to it than like the consumer end of it.
Oh, 100%, yeah. And yeah, the kind of this filmic history thing where it's like not just about the Muybridge footage from like 200 years ago or whatever, but it's also about like things that have happened and continue to happen, and like this whole history of like behind the scenes work and, you know, logistics that occur that like no one ever hears about or knows about. And a lot of people's are people being kind of consumed and taken advantage of in those structures, which is really, really interesting. I do not want it necessarily to go unmentioned that this film by a black director that features a main character who's a black man named OJ. When we and like the white people's reactions to hearing that his name is OJ, and just all of them being like, "Oh," because partially because they thought that they were getting like his sister.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or his father is a lot of what they think of.
oh well, yeah, 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 because the father
Because
passed,
isn't his name OJ because it's like it's his father's name Junior.
like Otis Jr. I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, and how like outside of film history, there is a very big spectacle having to do with a man named OJ
On
that
a white Bronco.
in a on a white Bronco, which you could say again, kind of part and parcel with like everything else we've been talking about, was an insane thing to make a spectacle out of on every possible level. Just from the stance of it being kind of preying on all of these like racist interpretations of, I mean, like just playing on the structure of racism in general, and like that is a texture that should not go like unnoticed. But also doesn't necessarily seem like it's like at the core of the argument, but it's like super important. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it definitely feels like it's another thing that he's drawing on. It's another thing that he weaves into his film because he knows it brings in a lot of connotations that echo into the work and introduce ideas into the film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of a strength and weakness of the film in its for like more traditional use of the sense of postmodernist film is how much it's referential to like larger media and pop culture. But I mean, Scream is also one of the best fucking horror films ever made, and
Yeah,
that is like the defining feature of the Scream series.
yeah,
Um, so like I like it. I don't think that's a problem, but it's like the film is like top to bottom, not just in explicit, but in like so many small details are like lifted from like other kind of famous tragic celebrity or Hollywood or entertainment culture things. Jupe's other starring role is like a pretty explicit reference to Short Round and his film career.
yeah. Yeah, and like the weird sense of like othering and, tokenizing.
and him having to lean into it but
Yeah.
like kind of change it over time to make it like more acceptable, but also it's like how he makes his money. Um, yeah, there's a lot in the film that it feels very very smart about like the way it's drawing on other movies and like other imagery and stories and stuff because it knows that the audience has at least a subconscious familiarity with it. Like even if
Hmm.
people don't pick up the exact references or like the sort of larger things he's drawing on, it seeps so much into the culture that like the little lights in their brain are gonna light up still. I mean, like that sounds familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I bring up the OJ thing not as a like, oh, that's kind of tasteless. Like I think that it's more tasteful than the like, than the references to Travis the chimpanzee, because it's like when you see the white people's reactions of just like, oh, like it's kind of saying something more subtly.
Yeah.
uh and
No. It feels a lot more apropos to the film and the commentary it's drawing on in a little less exploiting of like a person who was not a celebrity.
yeah, yeah, but I mean, like, OJ has had to, he's had to do the Ricky Jupe Park thing. He's had to monetize his trauma, and he's has all of these. He's got book deals and reality shows and stuff. So, uh, on point critique there, I
Yeah.
guess. But yeah, as the movie does, that is hinting at a much larger conversation. That I think it's good. The movie's making people maybe have potentially. I don't know. Like, I think there's 5 million different ways and 5 million different conversations that you can have about this film.
Oh no,
And
absolutely. Like I think he has gotten very good pretty very quickly at making films, like I said at the start, that are dense of meaning, that have things that you can tease out. There's so many small little plot threads that you can just grab. There's so many things that like you could literally we could probably do like a twice as long as the film discussion and analysis of just every use of camera and angling and
yeah,
framing. Like I said, like he's the conversation around looking in this film is literally like larger than we could possibly have in one conversation.
oh yeah, yeah,
um Even small details like when they're at the fucking burger place and there's like kids fighting each other outside filming each other.
yeah, like getting it for TikTok and shit.
Yeah, just like stuff like that where it's like even in this kind of quiet moment there's still something that you could turn into a spectacle going on outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But that these are all indicators of success. I think it's a successful film.
Yeah. It's a one that'll make you think.
Oh yeah, it'll get your noggin spinning. You
And
know.
I also got to appreciate it just on the level of like it is a blockbuster film in a smaller sense, but it is a blockbuster film in that like this is a film like a lot of Americans are going to go see and a lot of people are going to go out to the theater to see and they're going to have a good time. And a lot of people I'm sure are just going to have a good popcorn film time. But god damn it, it is nice when one of those films is not just shallow military propaganda.
Right? Like, it's good that I can like watch it and sit there and be entertained, actually. And like, I'm not gonna say it's one of my I'm not gonna say it's one of my favorite movies ever of all time, but it's good, and that is crazy right
It
now.
is crazy that a film can be good in this way, have stuff that people can talk about and things that people can tease out that play to both ending explained YouTuber types and also people who actually care about film. Uh and then also just be like massively accessible and like massively like just a narrative film that like yeah you can just watch it like you can just have a fucking family day out at the theaters and go see Nope and like you'll get your popcorn's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. I those these kinds of things are kind of increasingly I don't know if they're, increasingly rare, but it feels rare that it kind of penetrates to all these different levels of like fandom and viewing and different audiences and just all sorts of things.
The funniest reaction I saw to this film, and I had to stop reading it, was because so Jordan Peele had posted the full Gordy's poem opening, because you don't really see it in the film, you just sort of see it in the background.
Yeah.
He had posted it on Twitter, and the funniest reaction I saw to it, which minorly spoiled things, but then I was like, this makes me more excited, was the first top reply was just, I've been going like, so I didn't really get the whole thing with Gordy. Was the ape in league with the aliens? And I read that, and I was like, that is the funniest question to ask, because knowing still nothing about the film, I already know the answer is no.
I mean, in a fucked up way, the answer is kind of yes.
Yeah.
But, like, only in, like, a thematic, sort of heady way. Like, I don't know, motherfucker wants to eat, wants to roam, wants to hang out, wants to hunt.
The bit of, like, it's because I think she had asked about the shoe. Like, she thought that the shoe was a hint that, like, Gordy was, like, being controlled by the alien or something. Yeah. It was a very bizarre, question, but it was just very funny to me, and also cued me in immediately to the fact that people were gonna ignore the fact that the shoe standing straight up doesn't mean something in regards to the fact that it's standing up because this reason. It's the bad miracle thing. It's what a weird fucked up coincidence of like such a minor bizarre thing to happen amongst a tragedy. Is that a shoe landed in such a way where it is standing perfectly straight up. And also that like that's a lot of probably what kept Jupe alive, because he ends up just focusing on that and not on what's going on around him.
Yes, I had thought to bring that up. I was kind of back and forth on whether to even bring up the shoe, because it's such a holy grail of like weird ending explained stuff. It's like, why was the shoe standing up? What the? And it's like, there's no answer to that question. You know, why does anything horrible happen on camera? Why do coincidences occur? And I agree with your interpretation of it, that it's like, it's a bad miracle. It's a, it's meaningless, just like how Gordy's, intentions are functionally meaningless, just like how Jean Jacket, the alien's intentions, are functionally meaningless.
Yeah, no, it's just the movie is largely about just like sometimes something fucked up just happens to you, and you make the significance out of it, and that there is a human impulse to try and capture it and contain it in something that's understandable, which you even see of Jupe, and like the way in which he very clearly like gives himself this idea that this is like a sign that like he was chosen to survive this, when it's like,
yeah,
I mean, most of your cast and crew survived it. You just weren't killed before the ape was.
Yeah. Yep. Like, it's really, I think that's a really interesting sort of bait and switch for somebody who, for a director like Jordan Peele, who kind of traffics in those spaces and traffics in things being noticed and imagery being meaningful and all of this stuff. Like, for him to pull back the curtain and to say, like, there really is no meaning other than the meaning that you create. That's really something that, like, I kind of left the theater, like, I left the theater and I was like, that was a good movie, thinking that it was, just thinking that I was going to, like, probably stop thinking about it much more quickly than I actually did. I actually ended up thinking about this movie a lot, like, for a very long time after I thought about it, and that was kind of like the pearl that formed, like, yeah, that relationship of like meaning and meaninglessness and the pursuit thereof. So yeah, great movie.
Yeah, no, good film. Good job, Jordan.
Good work. Good work.
I know he was waiting with bated breath for our podcast episode.
Jordan Peele logging on. Fuck, the film critters. Oh my god, they haven't done the review yet.
Oh, I hope they like it. I like that our opening I love that our opening is a fake out because like it seems like we're gonna be shitting on the film, and it's like no, we're just making fun of people's stupid reactions to the movie. I loved it.
I quite liked it. Another classic, popcorn classic for me.
Good job, Jordan Peele, the first and only horror director to have 3 good movies.
Oh boy. It's the classic 3-movie run. That's how you know you've got someone who stand in the halls of fame and time for all cinema history. Gonna be one of the GOATs, one of the greatest, and that's all there is to it.
It was very smart of him to not direct the Candyman remake.
Yep. Yeah. That. Yeah.
Because that would have broken the streak.
Well, I mean, you know, I'm glad I came in. I'm glad I said my piece about this film. We got in our a little kind of scream therapy in there at the beginning. That was, you know, helpful. It kind of tore my throat up a little bit, but
yeah. But I hope you've learned when to say no and when to say yep.
Yep.
Really brilliant use of like the super tense thing of like relieving it slightly by letting Daniel do a little bit of just that very dry comedy that he can do super well, like when he's kind of leaning out and the lightning flashes and he's like nope, no. And then like him sitting there and then just like 2 minutes later like locking the door like like the alien is gonna like come down and try to open the truck door.
They really killed it in terms of making those moments, like the ones where like the audience says it with him, you know?
Yeah.
Like, nope.
Yeah, no, I saw an interview of Jordan Peele was like the reason he called the film that is not just to, you know, like also like kind of throw off a bit of the like add a little bit of mysteriousness to it, but also it's because like he wants to try to put the audience in the same place as his characters so that they will be saying nope at the same time the characters will. Mm-hmm. Like he wants there to be that level of audience engagement where like you see the alien head come around the corner and then you see the other one pop out way closer to him and you also go like no.
Nope. Yeah, it unfortunately gives a lot of negative reviews a really easy bit.
Yeah.
Did I like this movie? Nope.
What did I think of Nope? Read the 6th word.
God damn it. Well, in order to pay for this session, can I just hand you a photo that I took of an alien? It's definitely real.
Nope.
Oh, god damn it. God damn it.